victory?
Yes, sir.
Offense.
Yes, sir.
Defense shutout in the second half. Special teams. Tremendous job. Now we got one more chance at the ultimate chance. Healthy flight home.
Yes, sir.
Who can possibly have it better than us? Nobody!
Who can possibly have it better than us? Say the 49ers in the locker room. Nobody. Find out more about that on Sunday as they travel to Seattle and the seismometers at the Seahawks home stadium. Talking here in this first hour primarily about Christie and the scandal there. It turns out that if you want to look for somebody who is vindictive, I mean, this is what the charge against Christie is, that he's a bully, that he's vindictive, that he's retaliated against this poor mayor in Fort Lee, and we still don't know. I mean, I still don't understand even why his staff would do this thing, because the mayor of Fort Lee, according to Christie and according to the mayor, was never even asked by Christie for an endorsement. So that doesn't make sense to me as the explanation for the payback. I've seen some other possible explanations, none of which are convincing to me. So I don't even know, frankly, what's going on here, and maybe we'll find out, but I'm not sure what the motivation was. But it doesn't look like it was any effort on the part of Christie, certainly, to pay anybody back for anything. But here's a 2008 book. I started talking about this last segment, a 2008, or a book about Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, reveals, this is on AmericanThinker.com, reveals that as the bitter primary season progressed, Clinton aides kept a, quote, traitor list, end quote, even ranking those Democrats whom she felt had betrayed her. And then he quotes from a piece in The Hill, which is a political website on D.C. The list included rankings with those who were considered the most egregious traitors, and that's the word they used. They were traitors, not just opponents, but traitors, those who had betrayed Hillary Clinton in some way. The list included rankings of the most egregious traitors by Clinton loyalists, receiving the worst possible score of 7 on a point scale. And these are Democrats now. These are not even Republicans. Years later, these writers at The Hill write, Clinton aides, quote, would joke about the fates of folks who they felt had betrayed them. Bill Richardson was on the list. He was investigated. John Edwards was on the list, disgraced by scandal. Chris Dodd was on the list. He stepped down. He's history. Ted Kennedy's dead. And that was the point that they made. And John Kerry, by the way, was at the head of this list. So meanwhile, you got the media out there accusing Christie of being petty and vindictive and mean. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton and her aides have got a traitors list, an enemies list of Democrats that they're out to skewer and neutralize, and they celebrate then when it happens. Well, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Charlie in Bentonville, Arkansas. Charlie, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Brian?
Good. Charlie, how are you?
I can see you're a San Francisco fan. I just happened to pick that up a little bit.
Yeah, it's, I actually try to be kind of subtle about it, but I don't know. People are pretty shrewd, I guess, and they're on to me. So I'm busted, Charlie. You got me.
You're going to have to work on your subtleness. That's not quite it.
You're saying that's not one of my strong suits?
No, you're going to have to work. But,
well, Friday when I came into devotions on Friday, I wore the biggest, loudest 49ers sweatshirt that I could find. I walked in the room and people just literally groaned when I walked in with that sweatshirt on. So I went easy on him today. Anyway, Charlie, what's on your mind?
Oh, I just wanted to talk about Christie. I mean, personally, I have nothing against anybody. I think the Christians do not have anything against anybody. I think Christie changed dramatically when Sandy hit their shores and tore everything up. Then he went to smooching up to Obama, and it was really on the lines of being sickening. And then his compromising policies started to come out on his gay rights and all the other stuff, and illegal aliens and all this stuff. It's but as far as president, no. You asked, I wouldn't want to vote for him But I will tell you this. I feel that the Republican Party, the heads like Karl Rove and John McCain and people like that, they will not support a Tea Party candidate. But I know it's up to the people. But and as much as I'd love to see it, I would love to praise God over this one, because this would really make my day. But
what would make your day, Charlie?
To have a Tea Party candidate run.
Oh yeah, to have a genuine, honest to goodness
yes,
conservative,
a
right?
Conservative.
Yeah.
That says no, we can't spend any more money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And to me, I was looking, Charlie, we talked about this last week, about the number of Americans that self-identify now as Republicans is falling like a rock. It's dropping through the basement. They're down to 25%. Now, 37% of the American people identify themselves as conservatives, but only 25% identify themselves as Republicans. What does that tell you? Republican Party is not conservative enough for them, and so they're abandoning the Republican Party. And the Republican Party, the Karl Rove types, they seem to be clueless. The guys like you and me, Charlie, these conservative issues, they matter to us. They're important to us. We want somebody in public office that'll reflect them and work on behalf of those principles. And they just dismiss us. They apparently have no regard for the vast majority of the conservative base of the Republican Party. Anyway, go ahead and finish your thought.
But Brian, me and you live in the real world. That's our problem,
Well, and it's interesting, and speaking of that, I have a story in the stack today about over half of Congress now are millionaires. In fact, Democrats are richer than Republicans. A lot of people don't know that. But the average net worth of the Democrats in Congress is $1.4 million. The average net worth of Republicans is $1.0 million. But the point is, it gets to what you were just saying, Charlie. If you've got more than half of the members of Congress are worth $1 million, how do they possibly identify with you and me? They don't know what it's like to, have to make that paycheck stretch and have to budget every dollar and have to be careful with everything you spend and have to limit the kind of vacations you take and the kind of cars you drive because you're working with limited income. They've got no idea what any of that means. So how can they effectively represent the average American guy?
As the saying goes, they got theirs and they don't care about nobody else.
Well, I think that's a concern, that realistically you ought to have. I mean, how can they identify when they vote for these regulations? Let me give you one example, Charlie. Got a story in the stack today about this farm bill and all the subsidies that go to dairy producers. Now, what you and I pay, Charlie, at the store for a gallon of milk is 26% higher than it ought to be. The reason it is 26% higher is because of subsidies and regulations. So we're paying, first of all, to subsidize the dairy farmers, and then we're paying a second time at the store higher prices for milk than we have any reason to pay in a free market. So when these guys on Capitol Hill, these millionaires, let's just go ahead and pass that farm bill. Let's throw those subsidies to these dairy farmers. Let's make our constituents, a lot of whom are, they don't have a lot of cushion. They're trying to make it go on limited income. Let's just go ahead and raise the price of their milk. I mean, milk's a staple. Everybody's got to have milk. Let's go ahead and raise the cost of their milk 26% while we're at it. They just don't understand it. That pinches people, and it hurts the little guy. And I'm not sure that they're in a position really to understand that.
Yep, you're right. And back to my original thought, the reason I say Karl Rove and the rest of them will not support him is because I don't remember if it was in Virginia or West Virginia or South Carolina. It was on the East Coast where a guy was running. If you remember right, he was running for the Republican seat in the House, and he barely got beat, but the Republican Party refused to compensate him. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's terrible, man. They're like, oh, you're out there on your own. We don't care about you.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's going on now, like what happened with Todd Aiken in Missouri. Where he made his statement about how a woman's body will kind of, the way it reacts when she's raped. And it turns out he was right. I mean, the first thing that any fertility specialist will ask a woman, are you under any kind of stress? Well, rape's about as stressful as you can get, because the doctor will say, look, that'll interfere with the process of reproduction. So anyway, that was a winnable race. But Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, said, we're not going to give that guy a dime. I mean, according to, Reince Priebus felt like he stuck his foot in his mouth. He misspoke. This was insensitive. It's sexist. It's horrible. He shows no. So we're not going to give him a penny. In fact, what he said, we're not going to give him a penny. Now, that was a winnable race. And the same thing happened with Richard Murdoch in Indiana. It happened with Christine McDonald in Delaware. It happened with Sharon Angle down in Nevada. Those were 4 races that the Republican Party could have won, but they were 4 social conservatives, and the GOP elites wouldn't help them, wouldn't come to their help, wouldn't support them, wouldn't campaign for them, wouldn't give them any money to help them win. And so all 4 of those races then went to the Democrats. So, I mean, to me, that's just – and then you look at what they're doing with Chris Christie, where they're trying to prop him up and they're trying to defend him and they're trying to strengthen him. Well, they didn't do any of that for the social conservatives when they got in some kind of trouble. All right, Charlie, listen, I appreciate the call. Let's grab a call from Terry, San Angelo, Texas. Terry, quickly, what's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. Good to hear you. Listener almost every day.
Thank you, sir.
Wanted to chime in on the part about Christie and his being a rhino and me being a Tea Party type.
Yeah.
I've been part of the Tea Party here in San Angelo, Texas for about 4 years. I've been on the board of directors, so I feel pretty easily.
Hey, Terry, can I ask you, would it be possible for you to hang over the news break?
Sure.
If I can keep you on for another 5 minutes, I want to be sure we have time I want to hear everything you got to say, and I don't want to rush things. So if you can hang on, we'll get back to you coming right out of the news break, talking with Terry, San Angelo, Texas. We'll be right back after the news break. Stay with us. You were listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. I'm Brian Fisher. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.